Tēnā tātou katoa, good evening. Scientists say humankind can still avoid a climate disaster, but it is now or never for a strong global response. In the third part of its report, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has given what's in effect a final warning to governments to move to a low-carbon economy and society. In response, the head of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, has slammed world leaders for lying about their climate actions. The report says that if carbon dioxide emissions aren't curbed by 2030, then it will be almost impossible to undo the damage. Alexa Cook reports.
A beautiful slice of coastline now an absolute mess after floodwaters tore through homes, the marae and Urupa at Anora Bay 10 days ago.
This is our third flooding event in less than a year.
The Tairāwhiti region was hit with 3 months' worth of rain in 24 hours.
Our homes were in about a foot to 2 foot of silt right the way through.
Scientists say it's because climate change increases moisture in the atmosphere.
It just makes things worse. It loads the dice towards bigger floods, heavier rainfall.
And warn it's only going to get worse. The IPCC has found that even if all the carbon-cutting policies that governments had put in place by the end of 2020 were fully implemented, the world will still warm by 3.2 degrees Celsius this century.
Some government and business leaders are saying one thing but doing another. Simply put, they are lying.
It's now or never if we want to limit warming to 1.5 degrees.
We are on a fast track to climate disaster. Major cities underwater, unprecedented heat waves, terrifying storms.
To avoid this, report authors say there must be rapid, deep and immediate cuts in carbon dioxide emissions. Recommendations include a rapid shift away from fossil fuels towards renewable energy, eating less meat, an increase in electric-powered transport, planting more trees and creating technology to store fossil fuel emissions and even suck CO2 from the air.
We need to be turning the emissions down in the meantime while we do research on carbon capture and storage. But if it can be achieved, fantastic. Game over, basically.
New Zealand has some of the highest emissions in the world per capita.
Per head of population, we're right up there. We're ahead of 180 or so other countries in the world.
That because we've left it so late, we're now in the position of having to reduce our pollution much more quickly and more dramatically than we would have if we'd just gotten started 3 decades ago.
The government's emissions reduction plan is out next month and will set out exactly how it plans to lower emissions, especially for our largest contributors, transport, energy and agriculture. The farming industry says it's been working hard.
The sector is playing its part. You know, the 30% reduction in methane emissions at 1.4 million hectares of conserved bush.
Communities like this urging everyone to play their part.
We've got to look after our place much better
to prevent more scenes like this.
Kia ora, Alexa. Are Kiwis getting the message about the seriousness of climate change?
Not all of them, and certainly not all drivers. New figures out today show that Kiwis have been rushing out to buy gas-guzzling vehicles last month before a new fee came into force on Friday under the government's Clean Cars scheme. More than 21,000 new passenger vehicles were registered last month, and that's the highest ever on record, and a 36% increase on March last year. Now, the top 3 being sold, they were all utes. However, in at place number 4 is the electric Tesla Model 3. So perhaps the message to clean up our act is finally sinking in for some.
Alexa Cook live from Wellington, tēnā koe.
Well, if you're sitting at home watching that story and feeling just a little bit helpless as just one individual contributor, well, here are some tips on how you can help. Alice Wilkins has the details.
So you're plastic abolishing, meat resisting and petrol cutting, but is any of that actually doing any good? Don't fret, we've asked an expert, so you don't have to.
If everybody looked at ways of doing that, then it would certainly make a major contribution.
The report from the IPCC identified 60 actions individuals can take to reduce emissions. One of them, yes, you guessed it, going plant-based.
Chicken alternative is made out of soy, and for the beef, we are using soy chunks, and plus for the burger, we got the Beyond Meat patty. New Zealand is actually trying to cut down their meat intake, so it is happening.
But if you're just pretty partial to a cheeseburger from time to time, Don't worry, there are other options you can take. Try looking from what's on your plate to what you're using on the road by going electric or hybrid or making the most of public transport, which one Kiwi group wants free of charge for some communities.
Electric vehicles are fantastic, but actually they're really unaffordable for those on the lowest incomes. Our campaign is really calling for an alternative for those people who can't afford it.
There are smaller but powerful actions too.
For the washing, hang this stuff outside if you can. Don't waste food, because food has got energy and greenhouse gases embedded in its production. When you buy new clothing and you only wear it once or twice, give it away and put it into an op shop.
But what are we already doing well?
Well, probably recycling is a really big one for me.
Cycle more than I ever used to.
Try and walk a bit more.
I don't have a car.
It's doom and gloom type stuff, except there is hope and there are solutions.
So go forth and live by some of them. Alice Wilkins, Newshub.